There we go. I hope this works. This is my first time streaming from my work computer. I moved things over because we're going to play Neo 3 today, right? I moved everything over to this computer. Although I think I'm still using some old recording settings that are be a bit overkill for this. Like in a good way. I set them pretty high. But I'll lower them today. Or after today. But I thought I'd start a little bit early. I've actually been here for a little while because I had to get this set up right. And then I went into Neo 3's demo and I just adjusted settings to make sure that we were getting a stable 60 because my GPU here at work is slightly worse than the one at home. So I just had to turn a couple things down. But it's looking all good. Ready to jump into that. So what the plan is today, sorry, I kind of started off on a different tangent, didn't I? The plan is today is to make restoration stations. However, as I was walking to work, I had an idea for how we could fix the hazard box. And I did fix it. So now we can properly use proximity testing and iDraw debug for that. But I figured I'd show you before I finalize that. And then we can update the documentation, add restoration stations. It'll be a bit of a shorter day. Well, a bit of a shorter stream for Redlock. Then we're jumping into Neo 3. But still a very, very good one. Very good one. And if you're watching this, just note about a week of gameplay for Neo 3. And then we're back in Redlock. So don't be too upset when you see a small break. Ooh. Alright, I'll show you what I did. So my idea was, why are we testing if the player is in circular proximity of the rectangle? Now, of course, this was easy. It was the easiest method of testing because we can just test a proximity with equal distant radius around that point. But instead, I was like, why don't we just draw the hypotenuse? Why don't we just use a box instead of a sphere check? It's a little bit more wonky, but it kind of makes sense. The only trouble was drawing the debug for it was kind of annoying, but I just solved that. And I'm hooking it all up into the proper area. And it looks good. It looks like it's working. Although I don't know if there's any bugs when we like scale in different directions. We'll give it a quick test. But if it's working fine, we'll get it updated on the platforming map, the mechanics map. I'll update the documentation to state that there is no issue using it for this. And then we'll jump into restoration stations. If you're watching in chat right now, I apologize for calling you out if you're lurking. Let me know if there are any issues with audio right now, because I am streaming from a different computer, my work computer this time. So I had to copy everything over, get it all set up, and make sure there weren't any input problems with hardware. I might look a little bit different. I think I look smaller. I made myself smaller on this version of OBS, but it should be fine. This is kind of how large I wanted to be in the first place. I was pretty big on my work computer, or my stream computer. What am I even saying these days? Okay, so what I did, we used the shortest and second longest side, or second shortest side, I guess, glass half empty, glass half full kind of thing. And we draw the debug box from, oh, I just cut it off. Oh, this needs to be world location for the box. This is our debug. We don't need to show the box in debug. So debug is running a bit more complex code than we actually need to run for the calculation. But we're taking X and Y from the second longest side and then Z from the shortest side and making sure to negate where we need to. Adding that, of course, to the world location because we need to draw the debug box in world space. ABSing it because we're converting 2 points into a box extent. So I just minus the min, or I minus the max from the min to get those 2 points in like localized space. ABS it, divide by 2, and then we plug that into the box extent. We set the world rotation, of course, because we have that. And then the debug box center is the closest point on segment. And you'll see what this looks like. This can be deleted. That was our old sphere. But this is just our way to visualize how it works. It's a pretty meaty amount of math, and I'm honestly surprised that I did it on pretty much my first try. I'll take that as a sign that I'm getting better at math. I could probably just make that into a local variable, but whatever. Okay, so that should be good. Let's go back to the proximity. This was the old, just range max was that basic distance. Now we do the hypotenuse. I'm thinking this works. But probably it still has issue. It works. Kind of. It might have similar issues actually now that I think about it. It looks cooler. You know, it's about making people think that it works. But I can test one thing that I think, because I think it only works in like 2D space. I mean, the debug looks cool, and like the numbers we're getting are accurate. But I'm wondering if because we're doing the hypotenuse based on the second shortest side, which is drawing this right here is our radius, and it probably is drawing this in every direction. But I'm not really sure that I can do any better than that. It is, I think, a better... It is a better predictor than the old method. To a certain extent. As you can see here, we are at least capturing the corners. I have the debug proximity in the upper left. It's a percentage. But then, of course, because this is shorter than the hypotenuse, of course, we have the player, but then this is actually what we're testing. We're at Y. This standing here is about 30%. I guess minimum I can get it to like 20, 23% of the damage. So I would still say that the capsule check is probably still a better option. But now that we're not ignoring the corners, we do at least know that we are going to apply the hazard correctly, as long as the player is within that. It's about as accurate as I can get it, but it's still, it would be drawing the wrong thing. We can visualize it with this with a sphere though. Radius would be that hypotenuse. I guess now that I think about it, I didn't really fix anything. I felt so good too. Like before I started streaming, I'm like, I finally did it. I solved it. Fuck yeah. And then now I'm like, oh wait, it kinda isn't solved. You know what? I think I will include the sphere. It's still imperfect. I think there are still cases where you would be able to hit that 0 like here. It is better. I don't know if there's any way to make that better. Like the way it works, and the only real way that I think I could get it to work is basically just to draw. We're doing the capsule check, but it's like during runtime, so if you smear a sphere across a single axis, you end up with a capsule, right? Which is essentially what we're doing. Now, of course, we won't tick if the player's capsule, if the player is not overlapping with the box. So it's not like the player would be outside here and this would be triggering the hazard. Just that the maximum check range for it would still be a sphere at the end of the day. But theoretically, it should be working across all axes in the way that we would expect it to. At least from my very limited testing. This should just produce a box. Oop. I mean, theoretically, I guess I could change the... This is actually a good example. I could change, instead of doing the hypotenuse on the second longest side, we could do the hypotenuse to the... minimum extent. Couldn't I just do a distance vector and divide this by 2? It would make a bigger sphere though. But then yeah, it extends to the corners. Technically, that's more accurate. What up, Jim? How was your Thursday? Yeah, I think I do prefer that over the hypotenuse. Hey, Shadow Gamer, thanks for the follow. Does that mean that you're a gamer in the shadows, or you are in the closet as a gay man? That is the question. Or both. They're working on the stank zone around himself. You're both. Oh, nice. How's it going? How's your Thursday? You guys and your names. Although the distance would be the box extents, I think, would I have to grab the box extents again? I might have to copy this over. I might have to. Am I trying to program? Okay, so I have this hazard box, right? Like you walk in it and you take like a damaging effect. And you can enable proximity-based damage for that. So based on your proximity to the source of the hazard, you take more damage as you get closer. The issue is with a box, because when you have like a rectangle, we don't want to get the center, because the reason why you scale it up to be a rectangle is that the source of that hazard is elongated, theoretically. So we actually need to move and get your closest point along this line, depending on where you're standing. So if player is here, we grab the closest point along this segment here, here, and that's what we do the proximity off of. However, we need to determine what the maximum distance that the player actually can stand is, because we need to scale between a 0 and a 1 of 0% to 100%. How close are you standing to the point along the segment? But the distance from here to here is of course different than the distance between here to here. And then we're working in 3D space, so it gets complicated. Like a sphere is easy. Are you using a BP source? We could do the source. Wait. What do you mean? Because I think I'm misunderstanding what you're asking. And rather than assume, I will ask. Closest point on segment. I just need to use this, so I'll just make a local variable. Hey Rems, thanks for the follow too. And thanks for helping us reach 1,100 followers. You guys are insane. You win a free iPod Nano. You guys remember those? Well, maybe some of you are too young to remember that. If you're too young to remember it, back in the day, there would be scam pop-ups that would appear on websites where it would say you are the 1 millionth visitor to the website. Claim your free iPod Nano. And if you don't know what these will look like, these were all the rage back in the day. Look at this little thing. Oh! With a screen and everything. There was also the shuffle too. Honestly, I think these are pretty well designed. These are pretty cool. Did I just show my age? Object A equals damage center is max, contains a fixed location, then point B is your sphere trace, and you can't take the acid BP and use your third-person character to determine collision distance. It's roughly like that, yeah. It's easy with a sphere, though, right? Are you really the 1,001th follower? Yes. Yes, you are. I don't know if it updated it. It did update it. Look at that. Pretty hot. The sphere is easy because we can just grab distance, right, on radius. And capsule's easy, too, because we can do the... you know, distance of the radius on the capsule without the hemispheres. And because the hemispheres are equal radius too, it's basically just like a smeared sphere. But the box is a bit challenging because we don't have equidistant sides. And so the proximity changes based on where the player actually is. And I think it's a little bit too... It would be a little too overly complex to solve that in like such a rigorous way. So I think in the documentation, there's no use case that I can think of where we need a specific box test with proximity scaling. What's the game idea? Type in !game. And you can read about our game called Redlock. What's up, Flores and Strawberry? Gotta find that one Unreal Tips page again to keep learning cool things. What did you learn? Oh, that's not the right. That's not the right. Hold on. I know the issue. This morning I moved my... Okay, never mind. I don't have it. I moved my streaming setup over to my new PC and I didn't copy over all the commands. So you guys don't get to know what the game is about. Oops. Okay, well the game is called Redlock. It is a sci-fi precision platformer on a hard sci-fi precision platformer that's more lore-driven and story-driven than you might get with most modern precision platformers. It's not a parkour game, it is just a platformer, and after a mining accident, you are left at the bottom of a 2.5 kilometer shaft on a tidally locked planet about 50 light years from Earth. You know what, I'll read you the lore page. I gotta get that fixed up after today. Sorry about that. On the tidally locked exoplanet of LHS 3844b, mining colony Redlock searches for rare Earth elements used in fusion drives. Hosted by a flaring red dwarf star, the planet experiences extreme solar radiation and unprotected meteorite bombardments. You are the safety supervisor overseeing the expansion of the structure deeper towards the mantle where the rarest, heaviest metals can be found. The carefully planned construction of the geothermal power and mantle extraction level is interrupted when a mining-induced rock burst collapses a critical part of the structure. When the dust settles, you miraculously find yourself on your back, alive, with your exosuit having saved your life by dispensing reactive foam. Your mining friends and colleagues have been crushed, and nearly all levels of the structure are experiencing failures of some kind. Evacuation orders have surely been sent out, but your communication devices have all been destroyed by the fall. Nearly 3 kilometers of unstable platforms and lethal hazards are between you and your rescue. Should I get a shaft counter? What, for the number of times I say shaft? You can get a is playing an editor node for a boolean that's true if you're playing an editor. There's also one where you can do is development, which is pretty nice too. So you can set up like inputs that only work on development. Although there are already debug inputs and stuff too, but you feel called out? What are you a safety supervisor? Or shaft? Wait. We're questioning a lot today. Both? You like showing off niche skills? Were you guys the same? Did you guys learn like weird niche skills in school? Instead of paying attention? Show friends of yours how to connect 2 computers over Ethernet? Is that something that I've heard that the like Gen Z actually has less tech literacy than millennials on average. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard. Okay, that looks pretty good. Well, a little bit of spaghetti, but I did my best. You're always gonna get spaghetti with math nodes, unfortunately. And selects. I do need to copy some of this backwards, though. Just this. I don't like collapse nodes. Macros I'm okay with. Collapse nodes I get very scary about. This is Deserts. It's either from Aeon or Throne of Liberty. One of those two games. Yeah, close enough. If you want, I did write up some blueprinting guidelines for our company you might find interesting. Or some things that you might add based on your own experiences. I can share the link to it. This is kind of very company specific, so there are like a few things. We do use upper camel case, for instance. That might not be something that every company uses, but that's what we use. And also, I think I mentioned it somewhere here, but try not to, collapsing nodes. I mostly avoid collapsing nodes. And if anything, I only collapse one layer down. And that's mainly to avoid obfuscation, where you have collapse upon collapse upon collapse. Like, yes, it makes things look better, but it can be harder to debug because you're just like going up and down all these different layers. I think realistically, good node layout and organization, so not what Epic themselves makes bad, good. One thing I learned is not checking files individually if you add a reference to a file you haven't submitted yet. Oh, not checking files individually if you add a reference to a file. Yeah. I really just kind of like submit everything. Yeah. Unless you know for sure. It's like, I know for sure this is... I don't have to check this in because it doesn't reference anything, or it's like a completely new blueprint or whatever. Yeah, I think it's just practice. Practice makes perfect on that one. End up a ton of problems with Perforce. You're not the... I think everybody new to game dev makes a lot of problems with Perforce. Or with just version control in general. I think I mentioned a few times I have broken branches. My first time messing with source control. Or you check in things you didn't need to, or you change something that shouldn't be changed and it affects everybody else because you didn't know it wasn't a local thing, etc., etc., etc. Okay, that should be good. That should be my box fixed. It's imperfect. It's imperfect, but it works. And it automatically adjusts for different scaling since we get the vector of the longest side. But we are essentially drawing a capsule, so I've basically just turned box trace proximity checking into a capsule check. Which is probably fine. Like I said, I don't really have any use cases where you would want to use a box over a capsule or doing the proximity hazard check, so if a level designer places it down and mistakenly or just changes it to proximity for whatever reason, then they will just get a capsule check. That works for me. All right, let me go update the mechanics map that we set up yesterday. Yeah, we put best just skip proximity checks with boxes. We'll just put proximity checks with boxes are essentially equal to capsule checks. Perfect. Looks good to me. Awesome. What we made is I don't like gas. I find it a bit too bloated, so I made my own effect manager. And it works off of primitives, which is pretty nice. But the coolest feature is by far that you can use IDs to chain together hazards, so multiple primitive volumes can act as a single hazard. And that way, if you, for instance, have a, you know, for instance, you have like a big long hallway of fire, but it's a lot of like different smaller areas, you can just set them all to the same ID and they will all act as a single hazard, which is pretty nice. And then it won't like apply multiple hazards when you overlap with one or two. In my tip stage, you're right, that one might not be public. You know what I'll do? This is imperfect, but I will do this. There you go. Alright, let's adjust the documentation for hazards then. I think I mentioned somewhere up here that yeah, proximity is best to avoid, so we'll adjust that to not say anything about the box volume. The only thing you won't see though in that link, I guess, would be, you know, can I just export the PDF? I think I can do that. Oh, this would be way better. What does that end up looking like? I didn't even consider that I could just download that as a PDF. Export complete. Oh yeah, that's a million times better. Oh, those are very small. Yeah, I'll just upload. I'll upload the entire zip file. You'll get all the pictures. Although I think some of them are old. Because it kind of includes all of them, even if you update them. That'll be your challenge. You have to match up the photo with the one that's actually being used. Okay, this one's better. The second link is better. The box hazard essentially does a capsule proximity check. We'll change that. And then B is proximity based. Well, I probably should update our stream title too, because we're doing Neo 3 later. Okay, that looks good. Determining proximity. Yeah, we can get a new screenshot then for this. The box hazard is a bit more tricky. Underneath the hood, it does a proximity check based on the distance to the minimum box extent. What is essentially the corner of the box. Or the corner of the, yeah, of the box. This, however, means that we're doing a sphere proximity check that moves along the longest axis, making it a capsule at the end of the day. So if you plan to do proximity checking on a box hazard, just note to yourself that doing a capsule trace and using a capsule hazard might be more efficient. And then we'll put the image here for the capsule. Oop, not the capsule, the box. I forgot to turn on debug. There we go. It's a bit big. Maybe I'll make it smaller for the screenshot. Okay, so we've actually had footsteps the whole time. I just I muted on real, and you guys wouldn't hear it before. They've been there the whole time though. I just kind of find it annoying when testing to hear it. Yeah, sorry. Never the jump scare. I do like the debug visualization though. We probably don't need the box if we're still doing the capsule, but you know what? Or the sphere, but whatever. I don't care. And we can modify this. The box hazard volume with B is proximity base. That's true. Works as a capsule trace. In functionality. Nice 3-stream streak. What's the level gonna be? What do you mean? Efficient to use here, and would also make visualization during editing much more accurate. So it is better. It is better. What's going on in this floor in this story? So this is where the game starts. This is level 6. So because it is a big old shaft, right? And you are at the bottom of it. Sorry. This is level 6 of the facility, so it goes like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you're working your way up to the top of the facility to escape. So this is right after the accident, right after the rock burst has left you at the bottom. And basically everybody else is above you, because everybody else around you is dead, and other people who are trying to escape don't have to traverse as much. So you're like the last one there. But it wasn't completed. So level 6 was under construction. So at the start of the game, you are platforming in this kind of newly opened up cavernous area, working your way through some of these locations where people have started to do some initial mining and prospecting, but they haven't really built facility area down here yet. And then there's a mining elevator, and you get up to the geothermal power plant, which they did have online for a few months before the incident, but then there were some issues that were preventing them from going deeper. Long story short, they rushed it, skipped regulations and safety measures, and well, this is what happens. But this is where we first start to get our glimpse of the like the facility architecture. And then the last level of level 6, or the last part of level 6, is the fully completed water synthesis part of the facility. Though it is very much in disarray and destroyed after the rock burst. And this is a level block out for anybody wondering. So this is not what the final game is going to look like. It just represents where we want platforming and assets and what kind of things we want. And then we replace everything with proper assets. Then you get out to the main shaft again, and you finally start to have some proper infrastructure here. But you still have like 2 kilometers left to go. and multiple levels and many hours of the game, depending on how much you fail. The speedrunners are gonna find the speedrunners are gonna find that minimum time. But for most average people, I think they can expect about 5 to 10 hours of gameplay total, depending on if they do certain optional objectives, things like that. Use forced perspective on that tall tower to make it seem even taller. What I might do, because I don't know how we'll start the game. This would be in the future, probably not for early access launch, or it would be for early access launch. Would be that, you know, a small cutscene where that argument is happening, your character is yelling because you're the safety supervisor, rock burst occurs, and then, you know, you start the game. You start the game looking up at this. Or I thought of like a fun little thing where we start the camera up here, you know, we're looking at this massive sun because the star of Batsu in the sky would be like, it would be a big fucker, right? Because we're really close to our star. And then we just do like a slowly twisting camera that goes down and we get to see the whole thing. You know, you get to see your entire future journey here. And then we just show you at the bottom with all this rubble and like some bodies around you. Like, get to the top. That's your objective. I don't know what we'll do. But I agree, it should be pretty fun to put this together. The benefit of this first level is that it is a lot of like rocks and cavernous walls, so we don't need a whole lot of unique... We don't need a whole lot of unique meshes. Even for this first room, it should be pretty easy. So I think what we'll do, I talked to Rex about this a couple days ago on call, but I think we're gonna go room by room. So beautiful corner first, and then when we have all the meshes in there and it looks good, we're gonna build up one room. We're gonna start with this one because it is the simplest, it is the fastest, the smallest, and has the least amount of unique meshes. And then we'll just say, okay, how does this actually look in play? How does it look when we don't have a whole lot of, special lighting? Can we see pathways? Is the lava looking good? You know, are the rocks and crystals standing out enough? And then, you know, if we need to go back to the beautiful corner and adjust things, we can, and we'll just keep iterating until this level looks good, and we'll repeat that process for each of these other two rooms. And that's basically all we're doing artistically for the entire year. I don't think it'll take that long, but I have set aside as much time as we need to just make sure that this feels good. You should play it and think, wow, this was made by only 2 people. Well, at least parts of it, because we're gonna have to do outsourcing for certain things, right? Like probably some of the 2D art and well, one thing at a time. At least for right now, it's 2 people. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. Let me commit this to our hazards. Oh, Angel Beaster, I'm sorry, I didn't get that turned on. You probably weren't here, but I had moved my entire streaming setup from my streaming PC to my work PC. And I think there are a couple things that I missed. I can refund you those points, don't worry. I can refund those to you. Give me a sec. I'll disable that one for now until I get it working later. The other 2 ones that I added should work, but that one right now not working. Roblox? That's not the right thing. I clicked on rewards and it shows me some Roblox shit. That's not what we want. I always forget what this is. Like the Q. Power up. Oh wait, I think I know where I find it. Manage requests. Rewards queue. Where is gay? Gay. Reject. That'll refund your points. There you go, buddy. Do I play it and think, man, this is fun? I mean, you're right. That's probably a better thing to think. Is that this game is so much fun versus, wow, this game is only made by 2 people. Get your LCD screen working on my breadboard with the tea cobbler. All right, Mr. Fancy Pants. Slight improvement. New box hazard. Proximity checking. Merge. Box improvement. Box hazard improvement. To main. And then I will make a new branch. We're going to call this Restoration Stations. This is not going to be very fancy. This is going to be very, very fast and easy. Our design for Restoration Stations is honestly rather simple, and we're only focusing on functionality right now, not visuals. But it's like player will simply interact with dispenser, animation will play, player grabs a patch, snaps into the suit, player's health quickly restores up to full. So right now, it's just going to be you interact with it and it restores your health to full. And same for the LB4 ablative and your hydrogen. It's a good thing though. It's a good thing that it's easy to implement. But once we have the art for it, the animation that plays, little sounds, particle effects, that's where it's going to start to look better. Function first, form later.
I'm gonna come.
Nobody was looking at the screen when I did that. You need to have me right where you would put Josh Strife Hayes, okay? Second monitor, potentially muted, half volume at most, minimized ideally so you don't look at me. I love Josh. Yeah, my second monitor, that's where I belong. I'm not premium enough to be first monitor content. We should already have we have interactables. I'm just gonna model them off of this and maybe just make them a different, shape. But it's pretty much the same thing. It really should be easy. We just need to determine. We can probably either just use the damage type or we can use a separate. I'll use a separate enum. Or I might refactor. Because we have hazards, right? And we have the... Oh, that would be kind of an annoying refactor, though. But we have the health, or the hazard damage type, which already has our health ablative hydrogen. I should have made this a separate enum. I could rename it and move it. Yeah, I could do that. Have to fix my redirector. That'll be fine though. I'm a little worried that renaming that is going to invalidate some structures. Let's double check. I'd rather catch that early. You have my second monitor inactive browser tab. That's perfect. Worst, you know, if you're at like work and you have me playing, just unplug your headphones and tell me some out-of-pocket stuff that I could say, or things that only you and your company would know that I can say, and it would be really, really weird to hear coming from somebody that they don't know. Let's get freaky with it. Oh no, it didn't invalidate. Okay, I'm good for that. Let's get it moved then. Chaotic energy. I kind of, you know, I like shows or like books or stories with chaotic characters. You know, it's just like, take your traditional setting and just have a character that just does random wildcard shit. Like everybody's, you know, talking about serious things in like a room, and your chaotic character just comes up and beheads one of them. Like, I was tired of listening to that asshole talk. You know, you also have to have real consequences for that. Yeah, it's like the hold my beer character exactly came up. Bonus points if you actually just make him like a drunk bastard. Alright, that'll work. Restoration station. BP restoration station. I will, you know what? I will make these buildable. What could I do for this? We could have like a placeholder. Ooh, I have an idea. I'll show you one of my other projects as my idea. Oh, it would violate NDA about recent acquisitions in the EU market. That sounds really boring. I'm sure somebody finds that exciting. We could use this red outline material if we want. To show that you can build the restoration station there or something. They'd not pay me to do it if it was fun. That's a good point. Here, can we make the throw today? Yes! Oh, it's gonna be a good day. Any day that I make that throw is a good day. Oh, I'm fully charged now. But we could do that. We could do that material for the ones that aren't already built. Yeah, the outline of a rubber duck inside the transparency for... I don't hate it. Speaking of duck, did you guys play Escape from Duckov? Do we have any Duckov fans in chat? And you might think it's a meme, but it's actually a really fun game. Duckov. It's good. It's good. I have a lot of fun with this game. There was some review bombing that happened, but the game is very good. We played the demo of it, you know, during one of the Steam Next Fest. just as like, okay, this is obviously a meme game. There's no way this is actually fun, right? You know, we'll just play it, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And I was addicted. It did get a bit repetitive. I think that the worst part about the game were the quests. Not all of them, but it was just, there were too many quests. They weren't very interesting in many cases.
Daddy.
They were often a bit overly restrictive. I liked the progression that the character had and the progression of the items that you would unlock and use. But you could remove about 75% of those quests and the game would probably only become more enjoyable. That's my take on it, at least, from what I played. Should I make like just a really simple... little shape here for these? I don't need this to look good, I just kind of need it to work and be noticeable. Alright, there's my restoration station rift idea. I don't know what it is. It looks like a Justaway doll from Gintama. Anyone who knows that is pretty based. I'll just merge these into a mesh. What is the button for it? Where is it? Why can't I merge these? It includes engine assets which cannot be modified. Well, just make a copy then. What are we doing? Okay, I think that worked. I don't know where I put them though. Oh, I put them in here. Yeah, it's fine, whatever. Oh, it did merge all the materials though. I didn't do that. I want different materials on those first. Base progression ended so quickly, that was my favorite part, but by the 12-hour mark, you built everything. Yeah. A lot of the, some of the upgrades are pretty great. Like, I do think that the game has, like, it has good progression. It has good quests. But then, it, like, you hit the point where it's like, okay, now this is just kind of, it feels a bit filler. It feels like they're just trying to pad out runtime. If they spread out those upgrades... You know, like cut some of the upgrades in half, cut some of the progression in half, but then stretch it out to all the maps. You would definitely have less progression from like your base in the short term, but you would have more. It would feel, I think, it would feel better in the long run. But they are adding more maps, so maybe there will be some ways to tweak it. What I do like is that the game does have a lot of modding support already. So even if they don't change it themselves, mods will make it better, right? There it is. The restoration station. Rex is gonna hate this. We're not gonna show it to him though. But that'll work temporarily. There it is. Alright, let's throw one down. I do need to very briefly reparent that, because I kind of forgot about it. Do our interactable. And we'll throw in a placeholder title and description. Although I think I could build those. I could build those on initialization. Player resource type. This will be resource to restore. Instance editable. We'll do it this way. Resource restoration station. Interact to fully restore your resource. On begin play, we'll just simply do tooltip title, tooltip description, string, do a replace from resource. And we'll do that here. Of course, in the future, we want to have those localized, so we can just have different strings for that. But we are a far distance away from worrying about localization. Right now, that will be more than functional. Okay, we should have functions for interaction. Where's our interact? There it is, interact. On interact, get player resource component. Update, do a switch here. Update player health, update player ablative. I'll do the message. Update player hydrogen. These are floats. I'm pretty sure I just made those percentages, so that should fully restore it. Let's throw it on a hazard and we can test it out. Like I said, I think this one will be really easy. At least for right now. Like if we do want to, I mean, we do have time. I need to, actually, when do we need to switch over to Neo? That would be, probably at 11. So we have like an hour and a half. I'm gonna set up a alarm for that. Are you making a stickman type of game? No. This is what is known as a level blockout. So we make the gameplay first, then we make it look really good later, and we are at the phase where we are just making it work. We are currently working on the beautiful corner as we speak to determine art style and mesh complexity, but that is a work in progress. Our goal is just to prototype as fast as possible. If you waste time in pre-production worrying about how things, you know, look in this scale of the map, then you'll be wasting a lot of time. So for us, it was about... Actually, how long did it take us to make this block out? Like a week and a half? For the first half an hour to 5 hours of gameplay, depending on how much you fail. Although realistically, I think it's more like probably on average 2 hours maximum of gameplay. And it's much easier for us to just like move things around in this way without having to worry about how it all looks together. Last time you were here, you're working on blinking boxes and some timers slowing down. Blinking boxes. Blinking box. I don't know what you're talking about. Blinking box. Which blinking boxes? Alright, I'll make a quick health hazard. That should drain our health. Beautiful. And then we can restore it. Easy as that. They changed color, but you kept getting off of them, so they were blinking in effect. Do you mean the platforms? Did we ever put the sinking platforms in our test level? We put them in here. You mean these? These platforms? Hate that footstep sound. It'll be better when there's actually like ambient sounds and music in here and not like generic walking on cardboard sounds. Also to debug it? Oh, do you mean maybe the hazard boxes? like these, but maybe this one, I do have debug on these. Game that feels depressing and takes too much time? It does. It really does take a lot of time. And if you try to rush it, then you'll end up like making mistakes or coding yourself into a corner. It's also just not very pretty early on. And if you focus on making it look pretty early on, then, you know, you waste time when you could just be making it fun. So it's kind of a weird catch-22 where if you want fast results, or you try to force fast results, you kind of end up not making a very good game at the end of it. That's not a rule though. It's not a rule of law. Of course, there are good game jam games, but I do think game jams kind of have that weird effect where you have like a certain amount of time and you focus on this like this hyper simple gameplay loop, but then you also want to make it visually appealing, so you end up either with like taking like 3 days just to make a really fun simple loop, but then the game looks like shit, or you spend 3 days making the game look good, but then your gameplay loop is probably not that great. It's a weird thing. Good at ideas and researching? Well, the thing is, anybody can have good ideas. Unfortunately, you don't make any money in this industry if you have good ideas. Because all the work is actually making the idea come to life. Maybe for now we could recolor these based on what they restore, or like the tops of them. That might be an idea. Although I think that this mesh only has... Oh no, it has both of the elements, so I could do that. Well, let's do that. Let's do that. It's not super necessary right now, but it'll help. We have red. I don't think I have like a color for ablative. In hydrogen, we can do like the light blue or something, or we can change the base mesh color. To something. And then element 1 during begin play we can change to set material index 1. This guy's a good tap dancer. He is definitely Michael Flatley. Although Michael Flatley wasn't a tap dancer, he was a river dancer, wasn't he? Have good researching skills that help you get far. I think just it's like about problem solving, which might be what you mean. But I guess being good at solving problems isn't going to be the only thing either. You really do need to kind of know. You can kind of stumble through development and waste a lot of time. You know, and that's how like some newer developers spend 5 years making their dream game, or even 10 years, only at the end of it to realize that somebody made their idea much faster. Which, it sucks, but it's just like, that's the reality. Is your idea is not usually going to be so unique that you're the only one that has it. It really comes down to, can you make it? And can you make it in an efficient way that isn't going to make the game irrelevant at the end of your development cycle? Yeah, strong vision really helps too. And I think I wouldn't recommend trend chasing. Don't chase trends. Make the games that you want to make. If you are very inexperienced, make small games or prototypes to help you learn how to tackle the larger tasks. but don't be afraid to work on your dream game. It just doesn't mean that that's the only thing you have to work on. You can have your dream game working in the background, because more likely than not, your dream game is probably something that is unique. But then work on some small prototypes and like backport your ideas or solutions into that dream game. I know that's not a very common take these days, but you don't have to work on one game. But, you know, try not to get caught working on so many games that you don't finish anything. You don't have to know how to make the whole thing as long as you can figure out how to solve the next immediate problem. Yeah, and don't be afraid to refactor. Like, if it will save you time just to rewrite your game or rewrite a system from scratch, it's worth it. You will end up with something better and more efficient at the end. Every single game that I've worked on in a professional setting has had systems or tooling that has undergone at least one refactor, sometimes more. I remember one game we worked on, and this probably wasn't efficient, but we refactored a tool like 5 times. Unfortunately, it should have been done in pre-production, and it wasn't, so it wasted a lot of level designer time to have to remake levels with the new tooling. But every iteration of the tooling was better. In a vacuum, that's what ended up happening. I need to get the color that we show for ablative, like that off-white color. Looks like if you have an idea, unless it is super niche, guarantee someone else already thought of it too. And it doesn't mean that your game has to be a unique idea, but it has to. You're making a game for a market, and you need to know your market. Number one, you need to know who is this game for, how big is the niche, do people in this niche want the game that I'm selling? Because you can make a unique game that nobody's seen before, but unfortunately you have to sell that idea to a group of people who are humans, who generally don't like who don't like things that aren't familiar. I mean, that goes for all of us. We would rather pick up a game that is more familiar to our tastes because we know that we will like it than a game that is completely out of left field. Unfortunately. So completely unique ideas are hard to sell, but a game that everybody has already seen before is also difficult to sell because they will just say, well, why should I buy your game when I've already played this other game or multiple other games that are like this? Yeah, how good you solve problems is important. I agree with that. And I think a lot of that is just practice. You have to learn development, and you learn by making mistakes. Most of your first games aren't going to be good. But that's why I do think you should work on your dream game, work on the smaller things, and backport the ideas. It's going to take a long time to make that dream game, but you can make it that way. And therefore, you don't have to feel as if you're working on something that has no use. It's a marriage between the idea of you should only work on your dream game and you should never work on your dream game. You put an indie game that was made with the 3D game FPS game, but the player and enemies are 2D. I like the style. It is cool. I mean, that kind of also reminds me of, this is not super similar, but first thing that comes to mind is like Octopath Traveler, which did the 2D in a 3D low poly environment. And this was made with Unreal. Pretty cool.
My blade will not waver.
I'm going to become a star and bring smiles to people's faces.
Really good usage of Unreal Engine.
I bet you can't help but trip over opportunity in a town like this.
But I do like it. I like this this mixed stylization. It is harder to make though than just like a full 2D game. What was I doing? Oh yeah, the material, sorry. distracted. I think I put it in, not in the BPC, it might be in the MVVM. Does it take less memory to make games like that? Like less VRAM? Or RAM? I mean, there's some overlap usage. Storage. Yeah, it would for a couple of reasons. You're dealing with lower quality shaders and textures. Oh, although I shouldn't probably use the word quality, but lower resolution meshes and textures. So yeah, a game like this would be smaller to download compared to others. And then of course your 3D, you know, you don't have 3D models for characters, so they're just sprites. That's super efficient, especially when usually your characters are like hero assets and would have pretty high resolution textures. This game is 10 gigabytes to download. Getting started and thinking my industry is very risky. Getting into the game industry is very risky for many reasons. I don't want to sound like a bit of a doomer, but it is a very competitive industry where right now a significant number of people are getting laid off, and the number of jobs being created is, well, they're not. It's a negative number. So you are competing with a lot of people, including people that are laid off, in addition to people who already want to get into the industry who are new, and there just aren't enough jobs to go around. And most of the jobs cater to mid to senior level and not to juniors. Argue your field is more competitive than mine. What's your field, Angel Peacer? Oh, software engineering? Yeah, I would say if you're a programmer, just become a software engineer. You'll get paid more, you'll get better benefits, you'll have more job stability, you'll have a lot less stress. I wish I were joking. And you can still make games in your free time. Like nobody's saying that you can't. Super stressful to entry. Well, okay, that we might have that in common between our two industries then. Because like if you manage to even get anywhere close to game development, if you are so lucky to get a junior job in the industry, which right now is like you've won the lottery. Now you're scared that you will lose your job or your company is going to go under, or they could just replace you with any number of people. It's not like you are completely expendable as a junior, unfortunately, in this industry. Or that's how people treat you. So it sucks. It sucks. Okay, that'll change the color of the top based on what we're restoring. Little added benefit. I could even do that during construction script instead of on play. That would look better. Software is actually one of the top 10 hardest jobs to enter. The bar is so high even as an intern. Arcade game development is up there, might be even now harder to entry. They might be more similar than we think. Use Houdini. That is a good program to use. If you're in tech art, or you are in like an artist in game dev, knowing Houdini definitely puts you at a big advantage. 15k hours of simulations, made tons of my custom made methods, which are very quick, very less of an efficient, so I'm working on your own course and launch Teachable Academy before I was thinking to get started with Unreal for real time, but what I hate is C++ and tons of Node. Isn't Houdini mostly Node-based, though? I've never used Houdini. I'm a game designer. My specialization. So Houdini is, much like Houdini in real life, it is very magic to me. But Houdini is a really good program, and a lot of the big studios use that. And if you have example with Houdini, if you have experience with that, you will be at a big advantage for job applications. For bigger studios. For smaller studios, they might not, you know, mess with Houdini. Not that the experience wouldn't matter, but it would definitely matter if you're applying to a company that has like proven track record of needing people with Houdini experience. Sweet. Ablative, hydrogen, health. That's all we need. Let's give it a quick test with health, ablative, and hydrogen damage. Any Olympics VDBs doesn't work with Unreal nicely, lots of offset issues. The only thing I can say about Houdini is we had a tech artist for one of the companies I worked at who made some custom bridge support between Houdini and Unreal. And that's probably what's needed for a lot of things. But I've never used it myself, so I don't really know much about Houdini. Other than I see some really awesome things being made with Houdini. Okay, health, hydrogen, ablative. Looks good. Okay, we can make these buildable. We still have some time, so we can use the building components. We don't have a way for the player to get building components yet, so I'm not going to make a build of the game until we have two things. A way to get building components, which we'll need to make, and we spread out hazards and restoration stations around the level. So we'll probably have to do that. We'll figure out when we do that. Right now, all the hype with the market shifting with companies is what makes just tech as a whole is a tough spot right now. Because the space is changing drastically. Do you think consumers, I mean, maybe it's different between software, but for game, I don't know if the consumer base is really shifting. It's still there. Like, game sales were down post-pandemic, but it's not like this was... Everything that was digital like that was down post-pandemic. I think there were two things that happened. There was like... Have you ever seen those graphs where it's like... where it's like this, but then the actual graph is more like that. For me, the red was the market, like the game dev funding and hiring, overreacting to the increase in sales for games during the pandemic. And it went down after the pandemic, and then the game dev market and publishers overreacted again by mass layoffs and lack of funding. That's kind of how it feels to me. Personally, what I'm conveying from my hot take, look at Stack Overflow, there's clear evidence shit has changed. You're asking me to look at Stack Overflow? Come on, you know me better than that. I struggle with basic, like, quaternion math and trigonometry, okay? I think I'm looking at Stack Overflow. I should have like a get player building components, right? Yes. Super. Did I make a global function for updating the player? I didn't. I probably should have made one for that. Yeah, whatever. Okay, if player has building components true, then we need to update player building components. And run like a function to build the restoration station. We just kind of need to determine what it should look like before it's built. But we can test this. We'll make it instance editable. And we'll say this health one is not built. So it should remove a building component when I interact with it. It did nothing. Oh, because I set it to is built already. Hold on. Backwards. 4. And then we only get 4. But now it's actually usable. Or not, because I didn't hook that up. Now it would be usable. Only interesting game I ever played was Dead Island Riptide. Lots of past and past with that game. I don't know if I ever played Riptide. I did play the first Dead Island. Okay, that works. Everything works for that except for the visualization. Placeholder. Tooltip setup. I'm not going to update the... Let me think here. Let's do it this way. Is there a mechanic you thought was ingenious when you first came across it? Mechanic that I thought I was ingenious in a game. You know what? The answer is yes, 100%. I'd have to think about it though. I'd have to think about which mechanic specifically. I love like a lot of immersive sim stuff. Red Dead Redemption 2 for me was a game that just, as a designer, I was like, wow, this is just top class. It was one of the few games that I can play in recent memory where it did stuff, and as a developer, I'm thinking, how did they do this? How did they actually accomplish some of this? How much time did they spend on all of this, right? Have you ever worked at the game company? Yes. I've worked with 4 game companies in the past. Yes, 4. Any giants? Nothing AAA. Nothing AAA. Biggest would be AA with a team of about 30 people. How's it going, Trimux? Smallest was smallest was about 7. 7 or 8, I can't remember specifically. And that was Red Hook Studios with Darkest Dungeon. AAA sucks. I wouldn't mind working with a AAA studio only because it would be really good experience, and I would probably find somebody who can mentor me even further. 55 stream streak? Jesus Christ, Ramos. That's absolutely wild. You have the current world record, I think. You love it when one can notice the love and time put into a game. Me too. There's a lot of games, you know, if you become a developer, you kind of... you get disenchanted. You know, you see behind the curtain. And all the magic of games just kind of like gets lost in you because you see how it's done. But I love when there is a game that can come out and totally mystify me. Be like, I don't know what they did here. Or a game that can really immerse me and I'm not thinking about game development while I'm playing it. Ever done any NDA deals? Every studio I've worked with had an NDA, except for my own. We don't have any NDAs. And I don't plan to do any major NDAs for our games. We will do NDAs only for like business stuff, you know, like, hey, if you leak company emails or people's personal info, you know, we need to have a punishment for that, but not for the game. There might be some things that I'll tell the team like, hey, this is a secret, let's not spoil it for the players. But if you want to like share an asset you're working on or just live stream yourself making, you know, if we have a level designer and he's working on the level for this and he wants to live stream it, yeah, I don't give a shit. Go for it. Really good crunch culture experience and nepotism and how not to develop and make a game. Well, I mean, we say that, but AAA companies are pretty good at making games. They just have trouble making something good and innovative. To some extent, like if you think of a AAA company right now, they really do put out games relatively frequently that, from a lot of like technical perspectives, are quite ambitious and well made. Like let's think of a game like Dragon Age Veilguard. Was the game great from a story perspective? It was quite the opposite. But on a technical level, that game was very well made. And it really didn't have any bugs to speak of. And that's what I mean, is that they're not putting out something amazing, but what they are putting out is something that artistically and technically are often quite well done. Unbuilt? Wonder if that'll be too big. We'll see. Update, restoration, station, tooltips. We'll throw this in here. Maybe it's like in Baldur's Gate 3, you can toss small goblins at other enemies. Larian Studios does a lot of really awesome things with their tech. I love their engine. I love their engine and focus on marrying immersive sim elements and old school RPG game elements with, and they just update it for like a modern audience. And by modern audience in this case, I just mean people who aren't going to accept, you know, like the jank of a game like Morrowind nowadays, even though some of us might. Larian is doing a really good job with their mechanics. And I'm excited to see them get back to Divinity. Talking about recent times, not back in the day. Back in the day, even Ubisoft was really good. It's gotten worse. This is true, it's gotten worse. Hey, how you doing, Paul? How's it going, man? Going good for me too. I got in here very early today, and I moved my entire stream setup over to my work computer. Although, to be fair, I had done that earlier, but we weren't using it. I got tired of my stupid ass capture card I don't know what it is. I have to debug that. I don't know if the capture card is failing or if it's some software issue. But now we're fully on the work computer. Interact, spend 1 building component to build the resource restoration station. This is all just placeholder. Visuals. Default, they're all unbuilt. And they should have the proper tooltip. Hold on. Now they'll have the proper tooltip. Oh yeah, we don't manually trigger the update of the... Did I make a function for invalidating the tooltip? I have hide and create tooltip. I think this will remake it. No, I'd have to invalidate it. I should probably make a better invalidation. That works. Works for now. Got you working like a warrior? You working on your game again? Nice. It's kind of fun just like working on stuff next to people. I don't know if you also have the problem like with me where I have trouble like getting distracted working alone. Or just, I don't know. It's a bit lonely. I like working in an office with other people, and this is kind of a way to have that without having it. What did we do for the placeholder material here? Let's see. Item slot. Update main mesh material. Did we default give it that mesh? Yeah, we did. Yeah, we can remake this. Easy, it's just a translucent material. Translucent base. It's very progressive because it's trans. Translucent base. Convert to parameter. Color with a U. Because I'm kind of British in that way. And opacity. Default of 0.5. Don't duplicate it, make a child. MI item outline. And we'll just make that red. Now I think we looped through all of the material indices and set this up, right? Yes, that's all we did. That's not the right place. Well, I suppose it depends on if we have it built or not. We'll have to switch on that. So Microsoft is removing some setting in Excel and Word to let Copilot manage it. Not in my version. Not in my version. That's all I'm gonna say. Is built true. I don't know if that'll reset the mesh though. I worry that it won't. Oh no, it's good. There's Docs license OS or something we probably can't mention here. What's a way that I can mention this? If you ever need to activate anything that is a Microsoft product, GitHub has a solution that takes about 2 seconds. That's all I can mention. That includes Windows. It includes Office. You do not need to download anything, and it is completely safe. GitHub does, yeah, I mean, I think IPTV is pretty... If you mean IPTV, I think IPTV is not necessary. Well, it is... I don't think it is legal. Oh, something else? Let's just say this, GitHub has a lot of solutions. Let's just, don't say anything. Don't type anything, okay? But Microsoft activation scripts. That's all you have to type in. IPTV, the one you need an invite? IPTV is the one that you can you just enter you open a URL in like VLC or Poplar or whatever you use, and it loads up a whole playlist of different IP streams for videos. A lot of them don't work, but you can usually find like sports and news are really reliable to find, and some like movie ones, some TV shows. Pretty fun if you like are looking for like international stuff. If you're not a big fan of Adobe, there's also options on GitHub for displaying your dislike for Adobe. You know, torrenting this stuff, that's like old school. Torrenting, you know, versions of Windows and all this stuff. You don't need to do that anymore. Go to GitHub. A MacBook Pro and Mac Silicon, you don't need to go back. Oh yeah, let me just spend like $5 million on that. So here's how it works with me with Adobe. I offer Adobe gives there's your NFT. Blinding. Linux is a total outsider good for a gamer. Linux is getting better. I don't think it's there for full gaming yet. It depends what you want to play. But I think if you're looking to like make what do you want to play? What do you want to play? Because there are some things that are like super basic to play, you know, some normie games, and pretty easy to do what you need. But you might have more benefit getting like a small mini PC or something and just dual booting. Because then you can run everything that Windows has and Linux has. You don't have to screw around too much. you'll generally get like better emulator support. Linux is getting better, but it just doesn't have this.
Resentment can grow quietly without much warning after a storm.
Mushrooms can too. Shiitake? That's from Assassin's Creed Shadows. I returned to forum for Ubisoft. It changed the top. It did not change the bottom. I see Ubuntu's latest update passed a benchmark test against Windows 11 in performance in every way. I'm not surprised. I refuse to update to Windows 11. Bottom confirmed. Oh, because we just need to reset the material. What if I don't plug in a material? Does that reset the material for the index? Can I reset all materials? I don't know. I'll leave it empty and see what it does. What's my plan when security runs out? My plan for when security runs out is to not care. Or use some alternative security measures. I refuse. There's something very easy you can do. So if you open up your it's not GP edit, is it? It's GPC edit. What is the group policy editor? I can just open it up here. You're gonna go to Administrative Templates, Windows Components, and Windows. You're gonna look for Windows Update on here. And then in here you can do a couple of things. You can specify your update service location and change this to your local machine IP. And whenever Microsoft tries to update your machine, well, they won't get the update, let's put it that way. And so you can avoid all of the updates that you want through the group policy. It's incredible. And it's very easy to do. Destroyed by some hackers? What hackers, what data are hackers going to take from my computer here? Because everybody says hackers, I haven't heard anybody getting hacked. I've never actually heard of somebody getting hacked in this way. Phishing, yes, but it's easy to avoid phishing attempts. Windows 11 is the hack, yeah, true. I mean, hack me if you want, like, I don't know, steal my memes. This is my work computer, I don't even have anything crazy on it. Everything's in the cloud, so you're not going to destroy anything either. Maybe you can finish my games for me. Well, Notepad++ wasn't even hacked for everyone. It was hacked, it was targeted at specific people. We just don't know who it was targeted at. But it was not everyone. But the theory is that it was mainly targeting developers of Notepad because they were openly supportive of Taiwan. But it could be everybody. We just don't know. Okay, our restoration stations should be working. They are fully done. Looks good. We're not going to implement these in the main level yet, but we are going to implement them in the prototyping level. Cover your PC in tinfoil, it stops remote radio wave hacks. Side effect of melting your computer. Today is a I want to quit kind of day. Oof. Oof. Yeah, I'm not gonna upgrade to Windows 11. I have no need for it. Where do we need to place these? We have a little spot in the center here. We could place multiple around just for the sake of testing. And then we can show off like the buildable versions here somewhere. Yeah, the debloat is nice. And then on top, I don't think the debloat will change how you update, but what you can do is if there is a version of Windows that you find quite usable, you can pause through group policy you can pause like the mainline updates but still allow security updates. You pay money for an OS? Do we? I think if you know that there's a GitHub debloater for Windows, you would probably also know about MassGravel on GitHub. I'm pretty sure the disabling and debloating is true. People have done traces, network traces. I mean, it is possible that they could go underneath that. Not impossible. You could monitor your router traffic though to know for sure. Microsoft would be salty. I'll even say, like, literally, if you want to activate your Windows, which by the way, you can install Windows without a key, right? You can install it and then it has the little activate Windows in the bottom right. It takes like 5 seconds to activate Windows with MassGravel. And it's permanent. They don't really make money off of consumers paying for Windows keys. They make money off of paying of OEM installs, and which are like, you know, manufacturers of PCs, and then installs from enterprise. Paid $1. Where'd you get it off of? Like G2A or something? From people who can generate keys and then sell them there. That works too. No control over your System 32 files on Windows? I do. But maybe that's like Windows 11 or something and it doesn't do that. Kind of want more space here. gonna move things over. Been invited to a meeting at work titled Exciting Announcements Strengthened Cross-Department Collaboration. Oh god. I hope it isn't layoffs and it's more just like, we've installed a new plugin on Slack that lets you message people from other teams with little smiley faces. Why is set dressing? What, you mean like level art? I like level art personally. It does take a lot of time. Just add in props. I like that. I find it kind of fun to clutter up an area. But it's definitely not for everybody. Maybe I only like it because it's not my primary job. And if I had to do only that 24/7, I would not be happy. Okay, these are both health. These are both ablative. Just one of those days, it could be. It could be. Wonder how many websites are going to be made with generative AI? Probably too many. It's definitely layoffs. All departments miss their financial targets for 2025. Do you feel like that's an issue with the departments or with the KPIs of the company? Or, I mean, maybe both. Is there LLM code in Windows 11? Is there actually? Hydrogen, ablative, health. The admitted 40% is made with AI code. You know what my issue is with, like, with the AI code specifically, I just don't know if it is. Would I trust a senior engineer who generates AI code and then carefully reviews it line by line? Do I trust that more than just some black box here, generate the code and throw it in from some junior dev? 100%. Problem is we don't know which is being used here. Because it's not like Windows updates were perfect before AI, but now we don't know what they're doing. Here's the thing: I do think senior engineers are generating code, but I trust them more with it because they can just do code reviews. We kind of talked about this the other day, though, where the danger still exists where if you're using AI to write code, you still run the risk of not keeping your skills sharp because you are outsourcing repetition, which is the basis of gaining skill. So that is still my reasoning for not being a fan of AI coding. Or said if you don't practice routine tasks to reinforce your knowledge, your skills atrophy. Oh yeah. And like you said, yeah, that's just a basic fact of how our brains work. And it's only exacerbated now with AI. I think like everybody else, I tried using AI for some of my own tasks. You know, I wanted to test how good of a design, like a game design assistant, can it really be? And I can only really say this for certain because I am a designer, but it was really useful for taking away repetitive tasks. Some things that I don't think would build skill, like formatting a bunch of strings, doesn't really build skill for me. It's more just kind of a brain dead easy task. There are other things though that I could use it for that I don't use it for anymore, which is organizing notes. Because while it can do that really well, manually organizing and going through notes line by line is like rubber ducking my design. So skipping that part of it means that I'm not doing review on my own work. And I don't get better at writing. And you know, I don't think writing is just the... It's not the simple act of putting words on a notepad or on paper, but also it's the critical thinking of how do I communicate this idea? What's the terminology that I need to use here? And if I don't do that on paper, I get worse at it in real life too, like with verbal communication. So it can do grunt work, and I can review it, but I'd rather do the grunt work and review it myself, because then I get both benefits of not only reviewing my own work, but also with building my communication skills. But I guess if your job does not involve like communicating those, then sure, I think you could use it. It's just, what skills are you practicing on a day-to-day basis that wouldn't hurt you to outsource? I've heard pretty good things about Gemini. Jot down notes, stream of consciousness matter. I do the same thing, yeah. I do that, and I have used it to clean it up. And it's nice because it's not like it's writing for you, it's just cleaning up what you've already written. I don't do that anymore only for the sake of... I just find that part dangerous for my job specifically. Where my job is, game design is communication. It's not having ideas, it's communicating. And if I get worse at communicating, then I'm getting worse at my job. If that makes sense. It would be like, somebody who writes speeches, having AI write their speeches. Well, it's not like they're getting better at writing speeches. Okay, this is pretty good. Got restoration stations around, and then the buildable ones. Consumes building components. What's useful for 2? Asking for feedback. It can be good, but they can be pretty confirming. I think it depends on how you prompt it, though. Oh, you know what? There actually is a use case that I did have really, really well for for I was doing ChatGPT at the time, but I'd probably do Grok nowadays. Was I was having it roleplay as a publisher, and I was doing mock pitches of my games to the AI. This is not a replacement for pitching to a publisher, I can tell you that for sure, because every publisher is different in a pitch. But it was nice to catch holes in my communication or in my pitch deck. It was good. It wasn't perfect, but it was good. It was better than having nobody to pitch to. Good at getting a bit sycophantic. It does do that, yeah. That's the scary part, is that the number of people using AI for therapy. But they're not receiving therapy, they're receiving confirmation and affirmation. I don't think all models are the same in this way, and it certainly depends on how you prompt it. But I don't think a lot of people are good at prompting something like ChatGPT to not be affirming. That's scary. More fuel for the sewer slides. I would hope not. But I think that there is like that derangement or codependence. Yeah, absolutely codependence. Like people just using AI for everything and they don't trust themselves anymore. So like just think critically in the moment without, well, let me just quickly ask ChatGPT. It's scary. I only like majorly use ChatGPT and Grok, and I do find Grok to be a lot less affirming than ChatGPT. ChatGPT was, oh my god, it was like you could never do any wrong in ChatGPT's. How many sewer slides and other horrible shit came out of it? What, people are committing suicide over ChatGPT? Not that I want to look up news of people committing suicide necessarily, but yeah, this is, I'm pretty happy with the placeholder restoration stations, and we do have them buildable. Let me double check just to make sure that if we do not have enough resources, we can't build them. We need some feedback for it. Blaming AI for your suicide. ChatGPT told me to. It even corrected my my incorrect attempt. This one should not be buildable. Okay. Yeah, we have no feedback on that right now. We are gonna want some feedback. But it's fine for right now. It's telling them to? Oh my god. In other cases, murdering people because of reaffirming their paranoia. Jesus Christ. Like, you might just be out of options. Great point. I haven't seen them doing this personally. I haven't seen an LM mentioning this. Remember, we were kids, they were saying, would you jump off a bridge because someone told you to? Same logic applies here. Is that more a condemnation of these algorithms or more a condemnation of, this is an open question by the way, of like human behavior? Or both? Maybe there's a bit of a shared blame. Well, you'd be surprised. I would say that banning knives because people are being stabbed with them, which does happen. I think primarily in UK, you can't buy certain knives of a certain length. But, you know, the knife doesn't stab anyone. There's a difference, I think, between the action and the words, right? And I'm not saying that words are violence or anything weird like that, but rather... you can get in trouble for telling somebody to kill themselves. Let's put it this way. I think that the people who develop the AI should also be held to a similar standard where there should be some consequence for what they develop telling somebody to kill themselves. It's not direct in the same way as a person to person, but there is something dangerous here. You can't buy a knife, but you can buy a machete or a samurai sword. Oh yeah, that sounds logical. I don't know if we can. There's some danger to an LLM. I mean, let's put it this way. Like, I'll play a little bit of devil's advocate here, where I agree with you, Kiwi, where the action is still something that you take yourself. There's not a gun that's appearing out of the middle of your screen and shooting you. But I think there's a middle ground between saying you should have unfettered access to this thing that can absolutely go unhinged and tell you some crazy stuff, and then getting, you know, so crazy about it that we just over-regulate it to the point where it can't say anything controversial. I don't know where the middle ground is. It's probably not near the middle. But, you know, we have to draw a line somewhere. I'm not for censorship, though. I can say that. And if people want access to uncensored LLMs, it's very easy to get. There's no solution other than treat 90% of people like disabled. We can probably both agree, though, that there's a lot in life where if we did treat 90% of people like disabled children, it probably would solve a lot of problems. Not that we can do that, or that it wouldn't have big consequences, but it's a good thought exercise. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the over-regulation and over-censoring, but that's only because I trust myself with this software. Like, if it goes off the, you know, if it goes unhinged mode and tells me some crazy stuff, you know, I go on 4chan from time to time. I can deal with it, but there are people that cannot deal with that. And it's, what do we need to do? A mental evaluation before you're allowed to use the internet? Well, actually, I mean, now that I think about it, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm not saying it's a good idea. But they already do that? Do they? My Google's gone down now. I think I'm done with the restoration stations. We are going to switch to Neo 3 at some point. So you know, if anybody doesn't want to watch me play that, totally understandable. But this was a super easy task for today. I think we'll switch over probably about right now. But just for the people who are watching on YouTube, or for people who are new, we mainly do game dev, but I do like to play some new games now and then to find inspiration. It's fun, you know, it's a good bit of a break. We have a week of Neo 3, and then we're back with more Redlock development. I don't know if I'll play Crimson Desert on stream. That's still a question. If we don't, we have a couple of months completely that are fully free for development. up until May, where I have a game dev conference here in Poland, and then we're gonna play Lego Batman because it looks really fun. And I don't really know what's gonna happen after June, but it'll probably be mostly development up until GTA 6 comes out, and we'll play GTA 6. But that's so far in the future. But we will have about a week of Neo 3, and then after this, Monday the 16th, we're back to Redlock, and I'm going to start with the gameplay camera. We need a new camera from scratch. I don't like our current camera. So we need to dive in and figure out how to use the gameplay camera system and make our own first-person and third-person cameras. Lego Batman looks great. It looks really fun. I really like the Lego games, and this one looks like something new that they're going to do for the genre. Internet access license after a psychological evaluation. I mean, theoretically, the internet is not a guaranteed right. Freedom of speech is, of course, at least for people who are Americans like me. It's a bit like eugenics. It's like internet eugenics with the psychological evaluation to use the internet. But I can't see many downsides. Verified identity and psychological evaluation. It'll like remove a lot of bots and all the crazy people. So social media instantly becomes a lot nicer. Okay, but then again, I think, okay, here's what we should do. We should have, no, we have an upper class and a lower class of internet hierarchy. The lower class is still, like, the upper class and lower class both have access to 4chan. But the lower class doesn't have access to, like, the social media, like the main social media. So main social media stays really clean and nice. But if you ever want to, like, if you're like a normal person, you can still access places like 4chan to just have a bit of fun and entertainment. This is wild, by the way. This is absolutely not the greatest idea in the world, but yeah. I'm not advocating for this. It's just like it's locker room talk at this point. Allow mental asylums to return. I mean, I do think that we do need to do more about mental health. It's like all the really bad stuff that's happening is usually just like crazy people. We need something for that. We need, proper treatment and pharmaceutical intervention if necessary. Maybe for like the Karens, a lobotomy. We need something. We need to give people the help that they need or deserve. I think like sometimes medication, but over medicating too. I'm not a big fan of like just pharmaceutical solutions to every single problem. That's never been the thing that worked. Let's jump over to Neo 3. And I'm going to replay the demo. But I need to commit my changes today. Added in restoration stations with simple visuals and full functionality. Except for the animations, but that's the future thing. Excuse me, sir, who are you? Karens are silly. Karens are silly. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of like the over. I got in a bit of trouble when I mentioned that regarding like trans people having issues with gender dysphoria, where there was like this big move to completely affirm all gender dysphoria and medically and surgically intervene in. It was like a fad almost to do it. And I think that's really scary because there are people that grow out of it. There are people that don't know, you know, they undergo like identity crises, especially if you're like a teenager. But then you kind of learn who you are. And if we intervene too early in a way that is permanent or non-reversible, then, well, that has very obvious negative side effects. What is my game? Our game is called Redlock, and it is a sci-fi precision platformer. I was supposed to have a command for it to work, but I changed my streaming setup today over to a different computer and I forgot to copy over that command. I can put that back right now though, but I need to find out where I wrote it down. What makes it good? The gameplay and the story. It's gonna be very lore driven. It'll be difficult. It will appeal to speedrunners. But we've added a lot of casual, friendly, optional objectives and ways that you can play that will make it easier, and a lot of gameplay options that'll make it easier for people who are not super crazy into like speedrunning and hyper challenging experiences. You're making a game too? What's your game? Karen's just Karen's. Oh, I didn't save this. Let me find the lore tidbit that I put. Did we put that beneath the stream? Is there something about Redlock beneath our stream? I did not put it here yet. Okay, I need to get that then. I can find it. Unless we block Riley from the bottom right chat, I'll just get it after stream. I'll make a note of it. Except I don't have a pencil. I have nothing to write here. Okay, I'll just grab it from here then. Add back. To mix it up. I don't think there's been a game like yours. There's no clear genre. Oh, that's pretty scary. Could be good though. Could be good. Risks are worth taking, that's for sure. Let's switch over to... Yeah, let's end the recording there for game dev.